it was a business class about what's your plan for your life? You know, what do you want your day to look like? I was like, well, I want to be by the beach, and I want to be like, you know, involved in the community, and, you know, make a business that connects all the, you know, connects things, you know, to the people that want something. So, well, give more thought to that. What are we missing here from California, from Jersey? And I was like, you know, it didn't take long. I was like, well, I have everybody that comes visit me bring a Jersey Shore sub, you know, and it was like, yeah, you know, I want a Jersey, you know, sub. I mean, there's people here in California are eating Chinese food and tacos and, you know, other stuff, but nobody's here eating subs.
Dude, we all have the best time ever to start a small business.
If I'm not gonna be 100% in, I'm not gonna do it.
Come on, man, just be yourself.
Yeah,
and just show up as yourself.
If you don't realize what I'm really about, I'm about freedom, family, and my country. Rob, welcome. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks for coming.
Great to be here. Long-time listener.
Listen, I love that. Yeah, you guys got to give me some love. Let me know you're listening.
I'm giving you the flowers now, man. Love, you know, love what you do. Love the conversations. Always nuggets of wisdom there. So hopefully give you some tonight.
I just briefly speaking with you, I think you're going to have a bunch. So, local guy. We had the Bubbakoo's on, we had the fins on, we had to hit the trifecta and have Surf Taco on.
Well, I'm honored. Yeah, it's good to be here.
One of the original, really, ideas or concepts coming out here to the Jersey Shore in kind of that cuisine, correct?
Yeah, we started up in 2000, so you know, back in the day, it was pizza, it was subs, and when we first opened, it was kind of a new concept, bringing fish tacos to the Jersey Shore, so.
Yeah, and you went out to California, which we'll get into later in the story, which really kind of started, how did you start thinking about surf and subs or surf and taco? But we'll get into that. But for your friends and your family and the people who supported Surf Taco who are going to see this or watch this, this show really was started because I was a kid that didn't do well in school. I didn't believe in the traditional route. I still don't believe in the traditional route, almost more than I did back then. And I didn't have many people helping me. You know, if you didn't have a large network that they can go plug into and make money off of you, or if they didn't think you had the biggest, you know, intellect, there was very limited help. So I said, once I make a couple bucks, I'm gonna help. I didn't know what that looked like. I kind of looked at and visualized a Shark Tank, and me coming together with my wealthy friends and funding a guy who needed a truck and a landscape trailer. No bullshit, that was really my thought process. Fast forward, me and Evan launched this thing called Local Mentorship, where I was grabbing young kids, took this kid Trevor off a truck, 60 grand a year. His father had trouble in that industry with drugs. He didn't want to take that route, just had a young baby. He made 300 grand this year. And I said, wow, we can do this. It then morphed into Fireside. So this is all about turning around and helping the young business owner or the older guy, right? Because an old guy can learn new tricks. Sure. I don't believe that an old guy can't learn new tricks. And you're somebody who has pumped a business in the community. You have multiple locations. You're in multiple states. And I know you have a ton of nuggets, and that's why you're here. And again, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day.
Awesome. Thank you.
So, grew up in Toms River.
Yeah.
TR guy.
Born and raised in TR, to all my TR people out there. Yeah, my first job was Rich's Ice Cream, right down the road from where I lived. It was family owned and operated since 1955, and home of the Richie Bar, which we talked about earlier. One of the best ice cream sandwiches out there to this day.
Don't tell Jersey Freeze.
Anyway, that was my first job, just kind of really learning, like, you know, small business. And it was just kind of grinding and making ice cream cones. And, you know, my boss there at the time was just put a smile on people's face. And, you know, it was pretty easy to do when you hand them an ice cream cone or a sundae or a Richie Bar. And, you know, people were just, you know, I just loved that connection. So I think that was the first time, you know, that small business kind of mentality went off.
So went through high school, went off to college, you were like partying, doing your thing, and you're like, I don't know if this is for me, and I'm kind of fast tracking your college life. But at the time, going to college, you didn't really have a predetermined thing that you wanted to do yet.
No, I'll just touch on what you said, like alternative paths, right? Like, you know, I'm an entrepreneur, it's in my blood, you know, I never knew what that meant, but college to me was like 4 years of learning, and I loved the idea of it, and I always loved learning, but like getting credits and trying to do these papers and stuff like that really didn't connect with me. So I went to Marist College at first, and I was in communications. I always wanted to be, the Howard Cosell or a disc jockey or get into radio or something along those lines. So I thought that was the direction to go. But meanwhile, you're like studying theory of communications, and I was just like, this really isn't for me. I'm in Poughkeepsie. I'm a Jersey Shore guy. I like the ocean. I like, a little bit more. So I dropped out. I finished my first year at Marist and applied to University of Delaware, and I knew a lot of people going there. I was lifeguarding in the summers, and I had a big connection there, and I thought, that would be a good move, going to University of Delaware, and transferred there. Went my first year, they didn't really ask me back for the second, but
it made you have fun.
I decided to go anyway. I was like, you know what, who needs credits? I'm gonna still go, I'm gonna take classes, I'm gonna learn. And, I kind of just went to school and pretended I was a student at that point, really not knowing the direction I wanted to go. But, after the first year, I did another year there, made it through a whole year. And then it was kind of like, all right, well, I can't go back to school anymore. So I went back to OCC, took classes there, loved it, worked at Tycoons in Lavalette, and was going to school at OCC, and I was living across the street from the surf club. And, kind of just in that Jersey zone in the winter, and I didn't really have a direction. And I was like, a TV show came on called Key West, and it was with Fisher Stevens, and it was like, for communications back then, it was like you had a TV, and it was like, I saw palm trees and this guy writing. I was like, oh man, that looks great. It's snowing here in Jersey and people are miserable right now, and let me take a drive down there. So I borrowed my friend's tent, drove down to Miami. I had a friend in Miami, stayed over there, and then went all the way down to Big Pine Key and got a campground for $5 that time. It came with a shower and a bathroom, and kind of set up shop for about 4 months. And I was like, I'm gonna write, I'm gonna read. I called it RNU, Rob Nagel University, and just like, let me just study what I want to study. Let me learn what I want to learn. Let me sit by fires every night, look at the stars, and, and I'd have people come down for spring breaks, and, I'd show them my tent, and we'd go fishing and go down to Key West once in a while, and just, it was kind of there was no cruise ships or anything down there. You were literally at the end of the earth back in the day. So really felt, the nature aspect, just, the independent study. And I was really like, I want to write. I want to kind of figure out the creative side of things. I thought about a direction going to California and kind of getting to Hollywood and film and all that stuff. And I thought, what a great avenue. I could kind of just get the ball rolling, because school really wasn't connected.
I want to stop you real quick and go back to the tent. So a lot of times school and the traditional route is pushed on us, and I guess for the masses it's I guess a percentage that the smart people at the top think that that's going to be the highest success rate, or the most people we're going to funnel into an area. But it's the outsiders that think outside that box and do something like, let me remove myself from that system for a minute, like you did for 4 months. Let me get out in nature. Let me tap into my creative side. All these guys know I go up to the mountains, I just shut down. I'm not hustling, I'm not connecting people, I'm not closing deals. I'm just tapping into my creative side, shutting down the grind. And when I'm up there, I just find a different space in my subconscious, and I'm like, that's gonna work. This is an idea. This is what I'm gonna do for the podcast. This is content, or this is something I wanna do in the finance space. And not enough people go and search for that stuff and go spend time alone. Everything is so easy to be sucked into social media, which this is social media, but it's a tool. You got to manage your media. You got to manage the time with others. You got to manage what you're doing in school. So I think it's really cool to hear someone like you that was kind of an outsider who took a non-traditional route and kind of found something that was your next stepping stone that led you into the next part of your story, which I'll let you share.
Yeah, and just to touch on that, and back in the day, it wasn't easy, you know, like everybody had to go to college. That was the next stepping stone to get a job.
You're a loser if you didn't.
You know, so I give a lot of credit to my mom who, you know, always supported me. And, you know, when I said I was kind of dropping out and going down to the Keys, she kind of, you know, let me be me and figure it out on my own. So, you know, to have somebody that supports you in your decisions and directions, whether it's right or wrong, is a gift to anybody, so they can figure it out. Whether they win or fail, it's going to help them in the long run. So just to be, you know, smart about how you kind of talk to people, and this is the direction and this is what you need to do. Well, that might be right for you. Doesn't mean it's right for Joey or Johnny or Rick or Sally. So it's really just understanding what their passion is. And my passion was always creativity and writing and movies. And, you know, in the 90s, I had more VHS tapes than imaginable. I filmed everything and was creating content back when content had nowhere to go but us watching it on a Friday night with 5 of our friends and just laughing, you know. So,
yeah.
You know, but it was always that fun aspect of it.
Smoke.
I love it right there. This is Jersey to a T right here. So
that's a really good point, though, that you made, is and a great nugget. And make sure people write that down, that pay attention, is encourage people to do something that they're passionate about. One thing that I discovered in this whole thing is people are now bringing me on for coaching, and it's not about you selling mortgages. No one cares if you sold another house, you closed another deal, or you're a realtor. No one really cares about the pictures on your social media feed every day. What do you do as a person? Who are you in the wild? Are you into coaching? Are you into ballerina? Are you into, what is your passion that you're into? Let's focus that on you, the person. And because of that, you're going to indirectly get the leads flowing back to your business, because you're becoming more happier. You're pursuing something that you want to do, and it has nothing to do with your business. You just drip that in. So I'm a big proponent of pushing people towards what they're passionate about.
And also be uncomfortable, right? People don't want to hear that. But like leaving everything and going down to the Keys to camp, I was like, I don't have any money. I don't have any direction. Like, this is on me. This isn't comfortable. This isn't easy, but the nuggets I'm going to learn down here are going to be so valuable just to be on my own and meet people and sit by a fire and listen to people and look up at the stars and figure out, you know, what they all are, you know. And it's like, get your mind going, but make yourself uncomfortable. And I think we're afraid to do that and push ourselves to those boundaries, because we all like the comfort, and we're afraid to go out of bounds or do something wrong or be made fun of. And I think we got to get away from that. And really, if you're into something and you're passionate about it, but be okay with being uncomfortable as well.
Yeah, you got to lean into that stress. I think so many times we run from the stress and we want to do less things that make stress, and it just kind of makes you fall into your own little comfort zone, to your point, and I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So you went and you finished up doing the tent. You then went and you were doing some stuff with the Peace Corps, I'm sorry, or it was a program?
So no, first I came back to the Jersey Shore. So after, you know, 4 months down in Keys, you know, I came back to Jersey Shore. I was a lifeguard. You know, I lived at, you know, the beach. The summer was coming. I was going to bartend in Lavalette, and I worked at Ortley Beach as a lifeguard, and Normandy and Island Beach at one point as well. So it was nice to kind of come back to the home base. You know, there's nothing like the Jersey Shore this summer. So I came back to the Jersey Shore, and I was bartending, and you know, I was interested in this girl who, you know, I knew a little bit before I left, and she was back around. I would follow her to different restaurants and see where she was at, and we had a connection, and you know, my future wife, Melissa. So a shout out to Melissa.
Your current wife.
My current wife, yes. But it was that, you know, and
she could be your future wife also.
Yeah, my current wife. Well, she was my future wife when I was there. Anyway, she, you know, she was really grounding, and she was going to school at Rutgers for 2 more years, and you know, I fell in love, and it was like, well, let me just kind of stay here temporarily, and let me figure out what to do for the next 2 years while she goes to school. And you know, I waitered and I hosted and I bartended and I lifeguarded and, you know, and I went to school at OCC and I went to school at Rutgers, and I was still into the creative side of things. I took photography classes, I took writing classes.
She motivated you.
She motivated me to be a better person, but also, yeah, like get your shit together kind of and like figure things out.
I think that's something that's like been pushed away from society too. It's like, be single, party, buy the Lambo, jet, you know, whatever it is that they put out on social media that you see so much of. And that's just not real life. You know, when I met my wife, Kelly, it was like, all right, this girl's going to want to get engaged. She's going to want a house. She was much smarter than I am. I'm like, I need to make sure my shit's together. And, you know, there's a little nugget for the younger people out there. Like, if you find a good girl and or a good guy and you guys have a great connection like you talk about with you have with your wife, like, lean into that. Like, this is your friend. This is your best friend. And you guys could do some really cool shit together. You don't always have to be single and live that party life. And don't get me wrong, Kelly and I did a lot of partying and had a lot of fun, but you were doing it with your friend, and we both pushed each other to progress our lives. And I'm actually going to start talking about that more in the podcast.
That's
like,
awesome.
Get your queen. Be the king. Get your queen.
Yeah, there's a power to that, having a partner and somebody that's there to support you, that you can have a vision with. You can tell them, you know, your fears and your goals, you know, and kind of work it out and work through it, and your adventure, you know. And she's the one that kind of came to me and was like, I want to go to California, and, you know, I think there's a program called AmeriCorps Vista, and we can do a 1-year commitment. It's basically the domestic Peace Corps. We're going to travel the country, and then we're going to live in, you know, outside of LA and work in the inner cities, working with kids at the 4-H after school program. So in East LA and South Central, and really develop resources for kids. So, you know, I was intrigued from that perspective, and then also from a perspective of, wow, you know, that's where creative's happening too. So I can kind of lean into that eventually as well and still kind of be a part of this. And what I didn't realize was how much, you know, that experience changed my life.
I was just going to ask you, what did you take from that most?
It was just perspective, you know, and when you go to Watts and South Central and you see the kids and just a lack of opportunities, you know, and you talk about that, but it's, you know, it's daunting, and these kids haven't seen the beach, and you know, it's 10 minutes away, and they, you know, you'd come there and you bring volunteers, and their eyes would light up, and you just felt this connection, and it was powerful, you know. And it was like, wow, how do we get these, you know, kids more resources and opportunities, and especially in these really tough communities, you know, and give them more, you know, get them out and show them the beach and take them to amusement park, but also give them, you know, a future, you know, and how do we get them, kind of help them out. So I did that for the first year, and then the second year they kept me on as a Vista leader. So I oversaw about 20 other Vistas from across the country that would come there to help support the organization as well. So then I kind of oversaw them, and I would give them direction, and we kind of have meetings and
taught you a lot of management skills.
Management, yeah, and that was something I never really leaned into or knew I had, you know. And it was really kind of objectives and what events can we do, how do we get resources, how do we fundraise, you know, working at a nonprofit, all those kind of things. And it really opened my eyes to a bigger picture of how fortunate you are, but also, you know, how much you can kind of give back. And, you know, it was really a good perspective from that point of view.
My buddy I had on, Sean Gravy, I don't know if you saw his episode, 43 Oak. He had the Islanders and UBS fund him for underprivileged kids in the city to play ice hockey.
Yep.
And he's doing a lot with that. Good guy I could connect you with, man. He's
awesome.
He's pushing hard at. He's from the streets of Philly. He grew up seeing it all. And he got himself into advertising, crushed it. So shout out to 43 Oak and Sean, he's a great dude.
Absolutely.
So after leaving the domestic Peace Corps, what led you back to Jersey again?
Well, I didn't make it back that quickly. I was out there for about 6 years. So after that, you know, I stayed on and I became a placement officer out there. So anybody in the U.S. that wanted to be placed at a nonprofit in the 10-state Pacific region, I'd match you up. So if you were into finance, I'd find you a finance nonprofit. If you were into kids, I'd find you, the kids programs or environment. I'd find an environment program. So everywhere from Alaska to Oregon, to Washington, down to Arizona, Nevada, California. So that whole region.
Did you spend time in Alaska?
I never made it there, but I placed a lot of people there. Yeah. There was a certain element that people that wanted to go to Alaska, wanted to go to Alaska, and they were just set on it. But there was some really good nonprofits there doing really good work that, I get a lot of feedback and photos and everything going on there.
A guy just spent out this event out in Utah. He's from Alaska and lived out there his whole life, raced snowmobiles, and ended up figuring out a way to stay there. He built these or bought these things from Ukraine and other countries that are called fat tire trucks.
Okay.
And what ended up happening is the oil companies that work up there in Alaska, they have no availability to medevacs.
Oh, wow.
And they had no availability or roads to get somebody out who may be injured, so they contracted with the kid.
Okay.
And Tyler's killing it up there and living the life. I want to get up to Alaska bad. My wife has been. She had a roommate in college, but I took us off track. That's my ADD.
No,
Alaska is a beautiful place.
That's on my bucket list. It's definitely on high up there too, because there's something about, the wilderness and, what you see in the fishing and the salmon and the people and everything about it.
What about Montana? Have you been to Montana?
I have not yet, no. But same thing. I knew a lot of people from Montana, and there's the big sky, and it's just like they talk about the sky and the stars and, the national parks, but eventually.
Somehow everybody like us leaves. We end up back in Jersey,
Well, Jersey gets its hooks in you. And I've told three people this week that, I was out here, I was out in, in Washington, or I was out in Ohio, and I was like, in, some way, Jersey always kind of pulls you back in. There's something in the air here. There's something, an essence here, and there's a personality that kind of drags you back,
It is a special place, and it's funny. I had a guy here from St. Louis, Matt Vincent, company Not Dead Yet. Shout out to Matt. And he was like, it's a cool vibe. So you guys are aggressive here. And I'm like, we're definitely a little bit more aggressive, but we're all used to it.
Right.
But the Jersey Shore really is a special place. We're going to be throwing an awesome event April 1st for entrepreneurs, for small business owners. I hope to see everybody from the Jersey Shore there, because these events are all hosted in Texas, all hosted out west, California, Utah, Colorado. So we're bringing those people here to the East Coast. So I want to go put Jersey Shore on the map and get a lot of eyes on it.
Nice.
So you spent 6 more years out there, and then how did you end up back in Jersey after that?
So, when I was the placement officer, I decided to go back to school. I was getting some feedback. They give you a little, a stipend to go back to school, and I was like, I don't know what to go back to school for. I was actually going to go back to school for photography. I was like, well, I'll go to National Geographic and be the photographer and kind of do that route. But back in the day, I went to Brooks Institute, and it was you go in the dark room and you got the chemicals and all this other stuff. And it's I'm not good at that part of it. This is before.
That's not making it fun now.
That's not fun anymore. So, I was just talking about my mentor out in California, and she was Marissa, she was have you thought about going back for your MBA? And I was like, no. I mean, I don't even have my undergraduate at this point. I went to so many schools. I think the total was 7. And I was like, I never even got my bachelor's at this point. And well, you should look into it, because I think there's something there with the management side of things. So I did my research, and, I saw Thomas Edison in Trenton here. That would take all your credits and kind of make a degree for you. And I had, credits from everywhere. And they did the magic and handed me a humanities degree. And my mom made a cake, and I showed her the degree, and we were really happy. And then I was able to then...
Win-win.
Win-win.
I want to talk about the mentor real quick, though.
Yeah.
And what'd you say her name was?
Marissa.
Marissa. Shout out to Marissa. How important is it to have mentors at all levels of your life, even you now, right?
Yeah.
And especially when you're young and you're trying to figure out business and life. How important was that mentor to you to kind of, you weren't really looking in that direction, but to kind of just tweak your thinking just slightly?
100%. I mean, it's what makes you, I had a very strong, great guy, my stepfather, who was my first mentor, came into my life at 7 and really guided me. He was an engineer, and but yet kind of figured me out early and was like, oh, let the philosopher be the philosopher. Like, he let me be me, and let him go on his adventures. And
his spreadsheets weren't working out for you at college.
Yeah, I'm not going.
Send you down the engineer degree.
Right. But he had the wisdom to be, so like loving, and gave me the support and the confidence to be myself. And good, when I told him I was going down to Florida, he laughed, but he was like, wish me the best, let me know how I can help and stuff like that, and kind of gave me the freedom to become myself. So he was very powerful in my life. And really, when I first opened Surf Taco, he was the first one to really back up the idea and the concept and said, yeah, you're an entrepreneur, like, you got this. So very powerful. Mentors are very powerful and can make a difference in everybody's life.
I pay $5,000 a month for coaching still, and I coach people myself. It's extremely important, just different eyes that are looking on your situation. You're not stuck in the same think tank.
Yeah.
And you get other people that are sitting there saying, hey, you could work on this, or you could do that, or have you ever thought about this? So I was just glad that you said a mentor shifted the way that you were thinking.
Yeah, perspective, right? I never saw myself as a business person. And back in the day, a business person to me was like knocking on doors and selling, an encyclopedia or a vacuum. Like, I didn't know what, like, business, like, I don't get that. Like, I'm an artist, I'm a creative, like, so for me to switch it and be like, well, you have the skills to be a good manager. And that's when I went back to school, and I was super scared and nervous and uncomfortable, like we talked about, taking a first business class. And I went to school at night at Pepperdine, and they let me in to take one class at first just to see, like, can you do it? And fought through the accounting and statistics, and and then kind of worked my way through a lot of the classes. And then I took an entrepreneurship class, and that's when the light bulb went off, and
what was it in that class that sparked that?
It was the professor, once again. It was like, picture yourself, living in this ideal world. An entrepreneur is somebody that understands, is at the doorway of the door, and it's like you're selling a product that people want. And an entrepreneur can create a business that's funds and gives people jobs and experiences and is there for the customer. And I was like, wow, this sounds really cool. Like, I didn't know how to spell it. I was like, this is cool. Like,
you never coined a phrase to how you thought. Entrepreneurship. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she put together, like, well, you're going to write a business plan. And this was the class. And it wasn't a business plan about a business. It was a business class about, what's your plan for your life? What do you want your day to look like? I was like, well, I want to be by the beach, and I want to be like, involved in the community, and, make a business that connects all the, connects things, to the people that want something. So, well, give more thought to that. What are we missing here from California, from Jersey? And I was like, it didn't take long. I was like, well, I have everybody that comes visit me bring a Jersey Shore sub, and it was like, yeah, I want a Jersey, sub. I mean, there's people here in California are eating Chinese food and tacos and, other stuff, but nobody's here eating subs. Like, what an opportunity. Like, I'm dumbfounded at this point. Late 90s, it was like not existent out there. And I was like, hey, how can we kind of put a business, well, then she was like, put a business plan around that, and incorporate what your life wants to be and who you want to be, and then what that business plan is, and put that together. And I wrote it up, and I called it Surf and Subs. And I was like, everywhere from San Diego to San Francisco, all along the coast there, I'm going to have sub shops and be involved in beach events and volleyball tournaments and nonprofits, and really kind of just build it from there. And I really spent my time focusing on that. Everything got fuzzy outside of that because I was so into being an entrepreneur. You were hyper-focused. It pulled you. The excitement pulled you. And something you said best is start with what you want. Start with what your day looks like. And that's what I tell everybody. It was like, Ryan was such a rebel that I didn't want to go do that path, the traditional route, go 9 to 5. No, like what if I want to sleep in that day? What if I want to be up at 5 and work? What if I want to cut it out at 2 because I wanted to play golf, or I wanted to ride dirt bikes, or I wanted to travel, whatever it may be. I literally was driven off of that freedom. Freedom is everything to me. So that was really where the spark of Surf Subs was thought of. Walk us through what happened the next 6 months. Did you get one open?
Yeah, so I got into it like heavy. I was known as a Surf and Subs guy, and any presentation I could do was around, you know, how to make a sub and what makes a Jersey sub so much better, and it's the juice and it's the bread and it's the water, and like what equipment I would use, and got to the point, like ended up graduating, and then I was doing research, and I found a little piece of property or for sale for rent in Hermosa Beach. So it was like 2 blocks to the ocean, volleyball tournament, surf contest. I was like, oh, this is gonna hit. Was looking at slicers and, you know, how to, you know.
You were all in.
I was all in. I was like, I'm gonna be the sub king of California.
Jersey Mike's wasn't really launched at the time.
No, I actually reached out to them, and they weren't franchising out in California at that time, and so I was like, all right, I'm gonna figure this out, and you know, figuring out. I had my whole menu going, and it had a Jersey kind of East Coast, you know, vibe to it, and a jug handle drink, and a Silver Bay, and some other, you know, like local kind of Jersey names that I was going to bring out to California. So I was looking at space, looking at equipment. I was ready to go. I was close to signing a lease, actually. And then life happens, right? And my wife's dad got sick, and she was like, we got to go back to New Jersey. Like, I want to be back by my mom and closer to the family. And I was like, you know, well,
there's that woman again. You
know, all right, well, let's go. And I was just like scrambling, because I'm like, well, I have this business plan, and you know, I'm not going to make subs back in Jersey. And I was literally coming from the airport, coming back here, and it was in August of 2000, and I drove by Brave New World, and I knew that because they were the 3rd largest surf shop in the country at the time, because I was doing my research, because I wanted to be by surf towns. Surf towns and surf shops and all that. So I was like, oh, and there's a little spot right next to it, and it was a health food store that went under, and it was just kind of dilapidated, but it was right on the corner. It was right next to Brave New World, and I was like, oh, that would have been a great location for Surf and Subs. And I was like, you know, that's again the light bulb, and it was like, you know, I built a business plan. I had this all in my head, and I was like,
a template. It could be interchanged.
Yeah, I didn't know at the time, but then I was like, you know, being from California, I fell in love with tacos and burritos and that, you know, Mexican style cuisine. And I was like, you know, what if we brought a little bit west back east instead of east out west? And I was like, yeah, like what would we call it, you know? And I was like, Surf and Subs, we were going to do Surf and Subs, but how about Surf and Tacos, and Surf and Tacos, and Surf Taco, you know? So that's kind of how that dinged. And I was like, all right, well, we're still living in California, and we were getting married and moving back, and you know, it was kind of a crazy time. But I had the business plan, and you know, back in the day, you'd have the whiteout, and I basically, wherever it said subs, I put in tacos, and then I started developing the menu, and we had, you know,
Did you raise any money to launch this?
No, you know, this was kind of bootstrapped. My stepfather gave me a little bit of a loan, and you know, we kind of went from there. But it was kind of just figuring it out as you went. So.
Let me ask you a question. So for the person who's young and watching, or my age and watching, and they're sick and tired of working for corporate America, you know, they've paid for their mortgage, they don't have money laying around, and they don't have access to a loan. Don't you think because that pull was so hard, you would have found a way, you would have found money, you would have figured it out?
I think I did. Like, I mean, when I say we built this out for $60,000, like we scrapped it up.
Built it yourself.
Built it ourselves. I had a credit card that came in the mail, and I remember it was like for $20,000, and I was like, who on earth gave me this? Because I don't qualify for anything at this point, and it was just another way to go. But, I went to the military base and I put a $400 bid on like all this equipment, and I got it in big hangar, and it was stainless steel. It was our salsa bar. It was our grill. In the beginning, you scrap, and then you figure out how to kind of make it work. And building out a kitchen, and it was friends, family, blood, sweat, and tears, kind of putting it all together, and really scrapping it through, And
I want to point that out for the viewer. Like, if you're passionate, if you got that pull, if you got that vision in your head, figure it out. Like, so many people want to have like, well, what should I do? Should I do this? Should I do that? Like, just set a deadline and go. And somehow your mind figures out a way to figure it out. And I've said this before on the podcast. If you're that passionate, you have that type of pull, just go after it. Like, what's going to hurt? You go back to your other job, 9 to 5, they're out there. If you're a skilled person, you're willing to show up and work, you got work ethic, someone's going to hire you.
Yep.
Why not chase down the passion? Why go to your deathbed and say, man, I really wish I chased down that creativity, or I chased down that thing that made me most excited or gave me that freedom. So I love to hear that from you.
Well, I think it gives you the perseverance. You're going to just learn so much more trying it, right? And if it's in your soul and it's really what you want to do. And look, some things don't work out, but you're still going to learn those skills. You're still going to have that fight in you. You're still going to figure it out. So if you do go back to the corporate world, you're a different person. So
yeah, you learned a lot.
And you want to sit in your rocking chair, 50 years later, you want to say, I gave it a shot. And if it worked or if it didn't, you did it, and you can kind of learn and pivot and, wind the roads. But if you don't do it, you're always going to think, what if,
Yeah,
So,
and I constantly still take risk. It's all right. You build up a nest eggs and back into the next level and chasing down the bigger vision. And again, you could be a very simple business owner. And again, no business ownership is simple, and none of it should be looked down upon. But you can have a small one taco shop, right? You can have a small little, shop that sells guns. Whatever it is that you are into, you don't have to scale to X amount of stores, but if that's something you like and you enjoy and you don't want to work for the man in the rat race, like, why not give it a shot? And that's why I'm here doing this.
Ultimately, it's about what makes you happy, right?
Exactly.
Like, so having one shop and you're passionate about your hobby and whatever that is, and you're doing it on a daily basis and by your own kind of way, and then you've won,
Yep.
And if you're living in the corporate world and you're doing it and you love that, then you've won. So everybody's different and everybody has their own kind of passions and paths. And it's if in the morning you wake up and you're happy and ready to go, then you won. So it's not how many or if I did this or that. It's just,
what do you want?
What do you want?
Yep, I fully agree. And again, I don't think the corporate route is bad. I have a brother-in-law, I have a father-in-law that work for large names, and they are very successful, and it's what they enjoy and do. But I do think there's a lot of people stuck in the rat race. And COVID, one of the positives that came out of it is, a company today reached out to be on Fireside. They do cinnamon buns.
Awesome.
They do like an order, and then they sell it this U-Haul truck, and they're like,
love it,
blowing up. They're going to be on. I apologize, I forget the name of the company.
Awesome.
But that happened because of COVID, and
sure,
they were two people working in the pharma and marketing agency space, and they just really disliked life. It was soul-sucking is how she described it.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of soul-sucking going on in the country still to this day, and I want Fireside and people like yourself to be an inspiration. Like, dude, take that leap. Give it a shot. You could always go back.
Yeah, I mean, it's the fear is there. You just got to break the fear, right? And by breaking it, you just look at a bigger vision, but also be smart about it. Like build that business plan for your life. Not, give that thought. Go to the woods, go wherever, and really like, what do you want your life to become, rather than letting life happen.
Yep.
And I think if you go with the mindset, you can pivot, right? Instead of subs, I went to tacos. Instead of California, I'm in Point Pleasant Beach, so it's like just I know I'm living that life. I'm just doing it on a different coast,
yep.
And that's okay, because life happens. Pivots, you got to pivot constantly. When I first opened Surf Taco in Point Pleasant Beach, 9/11 happened, and it was, we were 4 months into the business and everything went dark, and it was painful, and I didn't know if people were going to come back and eat out again, and and you work through it, and you learn, and and you kind of just make a good taco and connect with people, and you keep going. And then the '08 crisis happens, and it was the Costco years, and people kind of locked up and were afraid of buying anything, and then Sandy happens, and all right, now we got to deal with that, and then a pandemic happens. So you're constantly pivoting and guiding, and you got to have thick skin, but you also got to, not have it's not a straight line. You got to just be able to kind of maneuver as things come at you and say, I want to move over here, or I want to move back this way, and constantly, as long as you're moving forward and you're happy with the direction you're going, then you won.
Yeah, I described it once on the podcast that if you want to get to the top of the mountain, you got to hit a couple switchbacks, and that's entrepreneurialism. It winds because life throws things at you.
Yeah, 100%.
So you then see this little store, you visualize it, get back to Jersey, you're helping out your father-in-law, future father-in-law at the time, and you open, 9/11 happens. How far after that did you launch the Manasquan store?
So it was about 3 years. So I was like, let me just grind it out. I'm the manager. I'm just going to learn. I'm going to create. I'm going to see if I got the right product mix, if we're making the right stuff. And, I didn't. Customers are like, your hot sauce is way too hot, and can you make just a beef taco? And what's with all this fish? And, like, what are you doing? And, I would take that all in, but I was right there on the front lines, just asking, maneuvering, changing, tasting, and just kind of building it up and handing out bumper stickers and, high fives, and
stickers were a big thing. Surf taco stickers were a hot commodity. They were everywhere.
They were everywhere, and it was just, that was the marketing budget, it was like, if we can get stickers out there, if we can be at events, and whether it was PNC, the art center at the time, or a surf contest, or we can invite people in for poetry night, it was like, we're going to create a scene, give an experience, and let's be that business that's out there in the community and kind of bringing people together, So wherever we could bring food or hand out stickers or hats, or, we'd be there. So that was kind of the guerrilla marketing kind of part of it.
And then and in the guerrilla marketing, I think what happens the most is connection. And I think everything nowadays is ads and clickbait and all that stuff. And what's still true and works the best is the word of mouth and connection with people. And when you're doing those events and you're bringing in the poetry and you're handing the young kid a sticker on his board that he feels like the man as he hits that skateboard and leaves your shop, like that is creating connection, which is obviously
100%.
what's allowed you to do this for 22 years. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit and I'm going to go to the future vision of Surf Taco. And when we were talking earlier, you talked about we're at halftime.
Yep.
Right, and at halftime you make a lot of adjustments. You have 11 stores now. 1 or 2 of them are bars.
We have one in Jackson and one down in Florida.
In Florida. So you have 2 bars. And you're now looking into this new world. How do I create a new experience, still with having the original emphasis of why I started Surf Taco? What does your vision look like? You have one of your teammates here. It seems like you're adding to the Surf Taco brand. You switched up some of the menu. My wife is mad about the vegan style tacos.
A lot of people are mad.
So tell me what the future of Surf Taco looks like. What's the game time adjustments?
Yeah, it's, and that's the analogy I'm using. It's halftime. We're in the locker room. We're kind of huddled up. We're seeing what works. Like, I threw a lot of spaghetti at the wall. A lot of things, took. Some didn't. We opened bars. We went down to Florida. So I'm really kind of just super focused on what really works right now and what can work for the next 22 years. And we don't even have to think that far out. It's just, what's going to work for the next 5, right, or 10. And it's just, we scale back our menu because I really went wide, at a certain point. I became more of a diner than a taco shop. And if Johnny likes something, I would add it to the menu, or Sally or Rick or whoever like that. It just became too much.
A Ryan burrito or the Johnny burrito.
Right. But the problem with that, it really comes down to consistency and execution, you know? And so we're really focused on systems. We're really focused on making sure our quality is there, our food is good, you get it right every single time. We cook the fish taco the same amount of time, so it has the crunch and the flavor and the squeeze of lime that really makes it our own, you know? It's really focusing on the details. You're
making me want to order surf taco after this.
It's just the blocking and tackling, right? Like, it's how do we do this consistently over and over and over again and just do it right, you know? We can figure out the product mix and bring in the right ingredients and kind of give something for everybody that works. We're bringing in the people that really create the environment and the energy, and how do we bring in people that really buy into our culture and what we're trying to do. How do we create that vibe and that experience? And that's through our videos, that's through our music, that's through hospitality, that's through cleanliness, that's through welcoming the guests, thanking the guests, getting that feedback back in. And then how do we execute on a daily basis every single time?
Gain that traction.
Consistency, you know, you're only as good as your last taco. And, you know, if you over or undercooked, you know, my chicken or my steak, you didn't get me, you know, and everything else can be good, but you got to execute on all levels, and that's what we're really focused on. So, you know, my vision is just to focus on all those and just the fundamentals and scaling the menu down, but really executing it to a T, and also meeting the customer where they want to be met, right? Like, things have changed.
What's their experience, the pre-handle, all that? Or
just, you know, they want to pick it up and they don't want to talk to anybody, you know, or they want it delivered, you know, and making sure your packaging is on point and the food is warm.
Travels well.
They got their salsas and it travels well. Or they want the experience now coming in and sitting down, and are we connecting with them? Are we asking them how everything is? Is the salsa bar there? Like, are they getting everything they want? So, you know, all this stuff, and it's just, you know, customer habits, but ultimately it's connecting with the customer once again and just really being there for that and creating a culture.
What journey do they want to walk on, and then creating those multiple journeys for the multiple different personalities. A recent thing I implemented is EOS. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about it.
No.
But they really come in and they work with your executive team, and they first agree on the structure of the business, what the roles are. So visionary, owner, visionary, integrator, marketing and sales, ops, and marketing and finances. And then everybody in the executive team, sometimes in a tough discussion, because right, we're being open and honest, we all want to win here, we're agreeing on what those roles actually do, and then who fits in that role best and who doesn't. Do you have the right person in the right seat? And then they build a metrics on a weekly basis called a pulse meeting that allows them to, based off a number, are we on track or are we off track?
Right.
And it's something that has helped my team tremendously. Ryan's
awesome.
a dude from EOS. I can hook you up on it. It's not that expensive. They have a book too called Traction. You can download it on Audible. Check it out.
Okay.
A little off topic, but it's something that really helped me.
Awesome. Nice.
So you're looking to, let's say, add a good amount of stores. Do you look at opening up more franchises? Are you looking to take on capital? Are you looking to bring in more people who want to be in this space?
Yeah, like I said, we're just in halftime and we just want to execute, you know. So scalability can happen once you get everything right. Mm-hmm. So we're just focused on we want to get everything right, and then the opportunities will present themselves. And whether it's franchising or bringing capital on or opening more shops, like, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about just how do we put the systems in place? How do we put the people in place? How do we really execute? How do we really build the brand up again? You know, that's something that I think could be discussed too. It's like, you know, it came out of the gates. We're 22 years later. You know, how do we re-energize a brand?
Yeah.
You know,
or
reinvent it, or just give it the juice again. You know, and how do we be more involved, and how do we change with the times so we meet the moment? You know, like, life happens and people get older, but, like, you know, brands matter. You know, and that's why people go to places, because they care about the brand or they connect with the brand, and that's what we want to do again, is just really re-energize the brand, be a part of the communities, be part of people, be really people-centric, and really kind of build our culture a little bit better and kind of just take it from there, because the opportunities, you know, it's if you get all those points right, like,
you could
take it wherever you want to go.
We were talking about the cookie business before this,
100%, yeah.
Crumble and Dirty Dough, which my buddies just got involved in. Like, that stuff is, you and I can sit here now, quarterbacking on Monday, like, oh, that's so simple, but it's right place, right time.
100%. I mean, who doesn't like even an Aunt Annie's or, a Cinnabon or whatever? You can see how that all works. It's just, hitting the people at the right time and the right spot matter.
Absolutely. What are you doing? Are you doing anything in the community, a sense of charity and doing things similar to what you were doing, Boys and Girls Club, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm on the board for Big Brothers Big Sisters, so and in Asbury there. So I've been on there for about 10 years now.
You know Laura Mulligan? I know she did a lot with the Boys and Girls Club.
I'm not sure.
I don't know if it was Asbury. Might have been another one.
Well, that's Boys and Girls Club. So Big Brothers Big Sisters. Yeah, they're out of Asbury as well. So we do the volleyball tournaments and just mentorship and just kind of big supporters of them.
However I can help put more light on that with this show and my social media, I'll help.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Great organization. My boy William's the director there and super good guy and Point Barrow guy too.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'd love to connect with him as well. So really rolling to an end here, the story's been great and you dropped a ton of good nuggets. Anybody who watches this is going to be able to pick up a ton of wisdom and just not so much about the money and that, but more so about like, what's your life? What do you want to do, right? What is making you happy? What is going to make your family happy? And then how do you go execute on that with making some money? Because, a lot of times everybody wants to do all these great things. You want to go to the woods, you want to do all this stuff. Guess what? You need money. And I get a little discouraged sometimes when you hear these people talk about all these great things and you don't need money. You need money.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, this is a business podcast about starting a business and making money, but just like I take all my people through, what do you want? You got to establish that, and you walk through that a lot in this episode. I like to leave people with 2 questions.
Sure.
First question is, if you could tell a young entrepreneur one thing that you think is most important, it is a pivotal thing to their success, what would it be?
Don't care what anybody else thinks. I think that's, when you're out there and the fear's in your stomach and, you're going to be uncomfortable, you can't care about anything about just what you believe. So, keep the noise out and just do what you believe in and things will work out.
And that's harder to do nowadays with social media.
It's harder to do, but if you can, you'll be successful.
Yeah.
I think that's just necessary because, being an entrepreneur, it's difficult and you got to have a lot of thick skin and go through a lot of, trials. Take risk. And also, it's a roller coaster. So you've got to just be like focused. And if you're doing the right thing and you're making sure, you're keeping people happy and your customers and showing up and responsible, then just keep doing that, kind of grind. You get, move dirt, because it's, life's going to punch you eventually, right? And it's like, you should have done this or you should have done that. You just got to stick to what you believe in.
What's so funny, when I was younger, I worked for a couple landscapers and I did odd jobs around the neighborhood. I always had a young hustle to me. And my parents worked extremely hard. My dad was a truck driver. My mom worked in a nursing facility, playing bingo and activities with the old people. And we didn't go without. I had food and I had a house, or we didn't have the best setup. And I always said, like, man, I want to make money, but I don't want to shovel dirt. I don't want to be doing landscaping. And all those things, if people have moved away from the trades, and you can make a ton of money there. So anybody young watching, get into that. But talking about moving dirt, like, I'm moving dirt every day. Yeah. If you want to win, you got to move dirt. You got to go through those trials. You got to go through those tribulations, and you got to get up and be ready for that fight. Move that dirt. Yep. My buddy Matt said, some days you're moving it with a spoon, and some days you're moving it with an excavator. Yep. And you got to get up and move that dirt and be fucking okay with getting after working.
Yep.
Second question, and this could be 2 or 3, other local business owners that you love, places you love to shop, eat, hang out, have a beer.
Yeah, I mean, we talked coffee a little bit, and I know there's some local ones that are great in the area, but I think what Mike's doing at Turnstile in Belmar is great. He's doing something a little bit different, and I know you're a divvy guy and stuff, but like, and shout out, they do a great job. But, you know, just a little bit outside of that, I think he does an unbelievable job. And I'll give a shout out to the Burger 25 people in Tom's River.
Yeah, they seem to be killing it.
Yeah, and Steve and Denise are great people, and I think they would, you know, having them on here would be
Tell them to fill out
great.
the application,
Yeah.
reach out.
Yeah,
We'd love to
awesome.
have them.
Awesome.
Well, Rob, I appreciate your time, man. I love your vibe. You guys are huddled up, and you know I'm going to be Bill Parcells coming in, and I'm going to tell you, dude, you guys could absolutely crush it.
Appreciate it.
What you want to bring, you're getting back to the blocking and tackling. This guy, I seen him run a bunch of different Starbucks. I monitor him. He did move my chairs a little bit in secret. I was pissed for a while, but you guys have a good team and a good vibe going on, and I'd love to just be a part of it and watch it on the journey.
Awesome. And I appreciate, not just as a listener, but what you're doing here is something special, and you're really giving back. And, you know, even for me, who's been doing it for 22 years, I'm always listening, and I get nuggets of wisdom every single time I listen. So keep up the good work. I really appreciate it.
I
Cheers.
appreciate my team, Evan, all of us.
All of you. Thank you.
We're on a mission, and I'm not going to stop until I impact millions.
Love
I promise you.
Love it.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.